Hey, I'm Sam, and it's another very, very cold morning here in the Highlands. I think this is the coldest it's been so far, so my nose is going to be running more than usual. The sun hasn't quite hit this part of the loch just yet, so it's very cold, maybe -10. So I'm going to take these glasses off so you can see me. Oh God. So there's a road ahead, so I can take my time and just share a few thoughts. I'll just get right into the deep end. So I'm mid-50s and I've been dissociated my whole life because reality was too terrifying, too scary, too painful. So I lived in my own head, and it happens to a lot of us, most of us I think. Everybody lives in some kind of self-delusion. But for those of us that grow up in persistent fear and stress, then our own head becomes a refuge. And as we age, that refuge becomes a prison. And it's very, very difficult to escape that prison. But if you want to heal, and you want not even to get your life back, because if you were born into trauma, complex trauma, relational trauma, you've never had your life anyway. You've had a version, a limited version of what's available to you, and that's true of my life. So I am becoming free, and I'm going to try and talk about some things that have become clear to me in the last few days. You know, in these videos I'm working it out as I go, and it's like each video is an exorcism. It's bringing thoughts and feelings and ideas out of the abstract, into reality, and then I can say, right, I've given these thoughts an independent life. They are objects in the world, data on some computer somewhere, ideas in other people's heads, but they have a life. And then we can see, is there more to know? Are these thoughts complete? Are these ideas true? And every time I exercise those thoughts and feelings and ideas, create space for new understanding, clarity, perspective. There's a shift inside. And in the last video I talked about will, and as soon as I made that video I focused in on two things when I rewatched it. The first is when I talked about retribution, wanting to, it's when I feel that stress, that intense stress of just my whole being hijacked by the terror and the isolation of my childhood, I do want to scream into the face of the person that hurt me, one of them anyway, and I want to scream a primal, endless, visceral, primal fucking scream from the core of my being into their face, and just until I can't scream anymore. So do you hear that? Because that's what I've lived with my whole life. Because in those moments when I am gripped by terror, even now at fucking 54, I want to tear the flesh from my bones with my bare hands. I want to throw myself against the nearest wall and shatter myself to a million pieces and just fucking become nothing, because I feel so imprisoned by self, by the traumatized self. And I want that to be registered somewhere, to be acknowledged somewhere, and say, do you fucking feel that? Do you see that? Do you see what I've lived with my whole life? And there are times I feel like that. But mostly, I just feel sad. I feel sad. I feel sad at the tragedy of it all. Okay, note, I'm talking about will, because I've got to go the other way because there's some cows there. Oh, look at this beautiful old lady. And this little puppy. Right, I'm going to pause because I've got to blow my nose because I'm just about to bawl my eyes out. So, okay, right, I'm back. I'm trying to find somewhere to go because look at this country, it's not easy to cross. And I can't go up there because there's cows and they'll go for the dogs. So, oh God, this is tough. I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to wander around over there and hopefully the sun will hit us. Okay, come on. So, will. I'm talking about will. Will and dissociation, but first I want to say a word about these lovely creatures that have healed me. Because, you know, I all my life I've dealt with such crippling anxiety that the dissociation was protecting me from, but it would erupt periodically. But over the last sort of 10 years, it got worse and worse and worse, to the point where there were frequent periods where I couldn't walk because of my body was just holding on to the pain so tightly and it wouldn't let me feel it and I couldn't walk. So over the last 10, 15 years, my body's become twisted where the muscles have just compensated and walking with a limp and standing in funny positions. And so over the last sort of 6 months, as I've really started to make some progress in my healing, I've started to be able to walk further. So that's why me being with the dogs is incredibly helpful, because I can go for gentle walks and I'm relearning how to walk again, and I stand up. So when I'm not making these videos, most of my energy and focus when I'm walking goes on just trying to walk so I'm not in pain. So I'm trying to stand up straight and have good posture. A little bit of disciplining going on there. So, but when I do have a flashback or I'm triggered, I struggle to stand up because my body just goes, no, you're not going to feel that. So it's a long and painful process, but progress is being made. So, the dogs, I'm really lucky because I have friends who have dogs, and these are 3 of them. Susha, an old lady, Bella, who's actually nearly 6, but she's very small, and Cara, who is about 8 months old and a bloody lunatic. So I'm just lucky because It's like it's a metaphysical process, healing. And when you're ready, when the student is ready, the teacher will appear. And when we're ready and we release ourselves from the prison of our own withdrawal and we say, right, I'm ready, fuck it, I'm exhausted, I want to live. And you open a little bit, the world comes and finds you, and you get offered pathways. But you've got to be ready to accept those offerings. And so one of my offerings was somebody asked me to look after their dog. And then I thought, gosh, this is very helpful because I get to learn how to walk again. And I don't need to be a person around these lovely creatures. I can just be with them and they see me. They see my heart. They see my essence. And they come to me. And I love them and they love me. And that, hey. So the camera turned itself off because it's so bloody cold. So if that happens, I'll just start again because I want to catch this moment. So, to get to the point of this video, I said something about will in the last video. This is just becoming clear to me, so this may not make sense because I may not have the best language to explain myself just yet. But, as is the way of these videos, I'll revisit this again and again until I can clearly explain it. So, our identity, its purpose is to protect us. Those of us that are born into persistent stress and fear, our identity forms as a refuge, and it forms as a place of safety. So as we age and we become more and more confined by that, and we find that our lives are very limited, and we want to change, but we can't. It's extremely difficult when you're rooted in the self of self-centeredness, the self of narrative, the self of those defining experiences. You say, this is me. I'm in here. This abstract realm of subjectivity and narrative, interpretation. I'm in here. When you think that that's who you really are, and you try and change, your decisions are coming from here. Your decisions are rooted in the wrong place, because that self doesn't want to change. So when you try and make a concrete decision and you say, right, I will not self-harm anymore. I will not hurt myself anymore. I will not drink myself into oblivion. I will not cut myself. I will not use food to manage my emotions. I won't be cruel to myself in my thoughts. And you try and change. There is a pull in the opposite direction. Sometimes stronger than as soon as you make a decision, you say, right, I'm not going to do this. You just want to do it more. Because the self of self-centeredness, the refuge, its purpose is to create stability. And so it doesn't matter whether that stability is restricting and limiting and painful, it's stable. And so every time you try and alter that state, it pulls you back into that stability, even though it doesn't work anymore. It worked once. It worked when you were a child. So it's extremely difficult to meaningfully change when you are stuck in self-centeredness. So what's happened to me is this gradual realization that, and it is very gradual, very slow, because that self, the self of self-centeredness, the refuge, is the place where we live in dissociation. That's where we live in dissociation. It's thoughts and feelings, and it's very abstract, and it's not really in the world. It's not in the shared reality that's waiting for you. And so to come out of that refuge, you have to process the pain. You have to go toward the pain, and you have to process it very slowly, and it does take a long time. And so healing is one and the same as processing the pain and gradually emerging from dissociation into reality. But we resist. So it has to be done slowly. There's no shortcuts. I mean, you may think you can do this. There are shortcuts. There aren't. There are deferments. So you can just defer the work until later, but you will have to process it at some point, the pain. So it's a slow, gradual process of piece by piece, bit by bit, moment by moment, feeling everything you don't want to feel, you couldn't make sense of, feeling it and releasing it. And as I said before, the good news is, in my case, I'm 54. I don't need to process 54 years of suffering, because it gets condensed and distilled inside you, and you can just release these key memories and feelings around, key memories of terror, and it transforms you. But it must be done, because otherwise you're never going to release yourself from the refuge of self-centeredness and emerge into relationship, innocence. Yeah. And so as you do that, as you do the work to feel, to learn how to feel, to face your fear, come out of your own head into reality, you realise that the self you thought you were is just narrative of experiences, responses, fear. But there's something else there. And, the real self, the true self, doesn't have conflict, it doesn't feel fear. Decisions are just choices. You just say, I'm going to do this, and you do it. There's no pull in the opposite direction. They're just choices. And that's what I'm beginning to feel now. So, it's possible. Doesn't feel it. And when I look at the my life, but particularly the last 4 or 5 years when it got really, really bad, I would not want to go through that again. And you just can't see the end of it, and you just have to keep putting one foot in front of the other, because it just feels like an impossible task. Like, when's this going to end? When's this pain going to end? How can I find my feet again? How can I move on with my life? It just takes time. I mean, if you've been watching my videos, you know that this has taken time. A lot of repetition. But don't ever give up. Look at these guys. Hello. Yeah, just don't ever give up. Don't ever give up. Because there's a world waiting for you, and that world is far more mysterious and fantastic and miraculous than anything you can conjure in your own head, or you can find provided in the offerings of civilization that wants to keep you dissociated. Isn't that beautiful? What a beautiful creature. They don't sleep out on the hill. They've got a little shed down there. Oops, sorry. So if you can't see yourself clearly, let me conclude on this, because I know I'm just going all over the place. Too much coffee, way too much coffee today. If you can't see yourself clearly, then you can't see how imprisoned you are by your own identity. And if you can't see that, you're not going to reach the understanding that you're not really who you think you are. You're not the narrative. You're not those experiences. You're not those experiences. You're not just a bunch of desires and fears, longings, requests. You're not your plans or your history. You're something else. You're something else. I am something else. And I don't fear that anymore. The moment just feels so rich now. Like I don't want anything. So, work in progress. I've lost the dogs, apart from the old lady here. I'm trying to think if there's anything more I can add. Aha, movement. Gotta have a good whistle. So, you know, I'm aware of the contradictions. You know, I'm working this out as I go. Here they come. Yeah, I'm working this out as I go. So, you know, I'm not going to delete stuff that I've contradicted, because, you know, the whole point of this is I'm trying to show progress. I'm trying to give hope to those people that are as lost as I was. So yeah, you can do this. You can do this. You can change. You can heal. And so my understanding changes. My understanding changes, and I say things with such certainty, and that is the certainty of the traumatized self, because, when you get to that point and you go, actually, all I do know is how little I actually, I know, and certainty is not so necessary, because certainty is about creating stability, and the ultimate stability is I am. Here I am. And here is Bella. Bella. Hello, sausage. You beautiful. Oh, sorry. Hello. And here comes Susha. She's an old lady. Oh, darling dog. Come here, Sushi. Oh, look at you. Hello, sausage. Hello, my darling. Poo. Pooey breath. Okay. I'll have to watch this before I publish it, because it's a bit all over the place. That'd be too much coffee. I had 2 pots of coffee this morning, which is 4 cups. Okay, I'm going to say goodbye. I feel like just standing here all day and just not saying anything. Take care of yourselves. Love yourselves. Just know that everything's going to be alright sometime. And all that pain that feels so consuming and so immediate, it will pass. As you realise that you're not who you think you are. There is no narrative that describes you. There isn't. You're something else. And that's what you need to believe. That's what you need to know with the centre of your being, that you're something else. And that's when you start to heal. Okay, dear friends, I'll see you soon.